A poet is a poet because of other poets. Find your voice through the voices of other poets. Visit avbobpoetry.co.za.
13 South African poets share the secrets behind their most intimate poems. We will discover who they are, where they come from, and the road they've had to travel. They will reveal what inspires their poetry and ultimately what gives them hope. Welcome to another episode of I Wish I'd Said.
In your human experience, reach for the humane. Even in these times we live. They said, what if we were not being buried, but planted, rooted as seeds that would branch out and blossom into trees? We have a story to tell about a winter that came, and with it, a pressure that made us diamonds. Our breakthrough, however, was always in dancing in the rain. Into the soil went the water, and from it a nation became. They said, what if South Africa, we are just getting started.
Today, our journey leads us all the way to the biggest, most vibrant township in South Africa, Soweto, a place that has birthed many intellectuals. And today, we get a chance to sit down with one of them, Kedibone Mphethi, as we seek to expose the inspiration behind the poem that took home the AVBOB Poetry Competition's grand prize for What If South Africa?
I'm inspired by artistic contribution. I'm inspired by creativity. I'm inspired by the opportunity to create. I'm inspired by accidental moments that become great, beautiful things in life. I'm inspired by fails that become great, beautiful things in life.
Kedibone o khotse e le ngwana ya botlhale kore age ya hae ha na le 7 nkare o na le 18 years kelelo ya hae ne le forward haholo, so ene le ngwana ya botlhale haholo. Ntho tse ngata re di tseba ka yena a ntsa hola je.
My days growing up back here at home were very full. I think the experience of having everyone in one house made the experience very full, and during the holidays would have that traveling to Nelspruit back at home, and everyone from Nelspruit comes here, and then it's even fuller, and you barely get to realize how some things are traumatizing or painful because of that environment where everyone is just together and you're having a good time, like catching up and having conversations. Home had ups and downs. Home, I think, to be honest, I had a very passive experience when it came to home, on purpose. I had a very, like, let me ignore some things type of experience when it came to home. We fought sometimes a lot within the household, and when you're a child, you don't understand a lot of things. So I don't understand why am I in trouble? You know, why am I being scolded? Why am I being beaten? It's an experience that you want to run away from. So I think I spent a lot of time running away from it mentally and escaped into whatever was fun and was happening outside of that situation. So TV was my best friend. It was not easy having to like share TV with other people, but it was my best friend. Anything that would just get me out. Like, I had a very imaginative, like, persona and just out there experience. And I was passive. I was extremely passive to a lot of things. It became a personality where it was almost as if I was aloof most of the time. And me being aloof is just me visiting places in my mind, thinking that I exist in a fantasy world, Harry Potter, and embracing an alternate story about my life. I did a lot of that growing up. I literally imagined myself living in a different space than the one that I was actually living in. I imagined that life was fun and everything was the same with other kids, because my mom somehow managed to get me into a private school where kids there, when they tell stories about homes, like my mom, my dad, we did this, we did that, I made that story up in my mind. Like my mom and my dad, we did this, we did that. And I believed it. In a very strange way, I believed it, because whenever I tell that story, there'll be a joy in me that I experience when I'm feeling. So I believed the fact that, I was having an experience that I deemed to be normal, the same experience as my peers. I was experiencing that, even though when I came home, my dad was my uncle, my mom was at work, and she came back home tired and never really had the time.
As a child who escaped into a world of fantasy to cope with life, how did Kedibone ground herself in reality and in the truth of what she was actually feeling?
I started writing very early in my life. I started journaling, I started writing diaries very, very early in my life. And I can remember like professing to my diary, like, dear diary, this is what's happening in my life right now. And whenever that moment came, when I was writing, I would actually be in full realization of where I am and what is happening in my life. So, parts of that, like moments when I could find a safe place to connect with my truth. And those moments were with my sister and my diary. My sister didn't live with us at the time. She lived in Nelspruit. So whenever she would visit, like literally the first thing I would do is run to her and then start telling her, so this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened. And every time I rant, like, okay, this is what happened, it will be like an outpouring. Like everything that happened from the months of January to March, because school time, March ends. So I'm telling her, okay, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, and I'm crying. It's not comfortable, and I'm in pain, and I want her to stay, and I don't want her to leave. And I think that was probably the one time that I could actually relate to someone and talk to her. That, and when I was writing my diary, I'm very comfortable with crying, very, very comfortable now, but I was never comfortable growing up. I did not enjoy it at all. But whenever I could find a safe place to actually be able to talk to somebody, I expressed it and I lived in it. But it would be something that I wanted to run away as quickly and as possibly as I could. I am very, at this point in my life, with this realization, right, I have come to a place where I'm appreciating beyond the pain, and I'm understanding, I'm able to actually conceptualize and understand my mother's struggles, my mother's pain, and why certain things never happened the way that they happened, in a very loving way, in a way that inspires me, in a way that takes me out of, I want to run away from you. Because for a very long time, I wanted to run away. I wanted to not be in a space where I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel okay to be loving. I didn't feel okay with my personality. When I opened the gift of light, I pocketed its shade. Dimness, darkness, shadows, grays. Shades of light color the mirror through the memory of. The love of light is known in its dark character. We ask that you enunciate the tales of this life this way. Create a sequel to the story about far, far away, subsequent to happily ever after. Perhaps sleep has a story to tell. In it, the truth of eternalness. Excuse us, we never gave thoughts to sleep. Never has anyone told us where the dream began. The details are in the feeling. The ending is unknown. Can someone tell us how a dream begins? Their eyes as they shut them down? We ask you to enunciate the tales of this life this way. Create a sequel to the story about far, far away, subsequent to happily ever after, where we would find joy in a full stop. Ecstatic to the nature of the exit. Is it not in the daily? I ask, do we not speak of dying skin cells, renewing brain cells, knowing to all that are friends with vodka, the dead brain cells? Clues in nature can be found, and it has been telling us that to live is to die another day. Writing has given me the most beautiful understanding of where I am and where I want to be and how I can embrace the story of me. It has made me embrace uncertainty. It has made me embrace probability. It has made me embrace imagination and find lines in between that mean something to me. You know, be able to extract a portion of good feeling energy within an experience. So that's why whenever I write, I always I meditate myself into a state of capture a feeling, capture a feeling, capture a feeling. And that often makes me then go deep into understanding what something as simple as a bird in the morning at 4:30 a.m. is doing outside my window. So whenever I go into a space of writing, I get to embrace the imagination, I get to embrace the poetry of life, the art of life.
You see, her work is, like I said, it's literally out of this world. She doesn't speak of the love you get, the cliche poems you get from other people, love, pain. And I'm not trying to undermine other poets. All I'm trying to say is her work is different. It's big, it speaks to the spiritual. You would literally say that she can write her own Bible. Like that's how spiritual she is. She's beyond life. Her poems are imaginary.
I've made peace with the fact that my mind is real. And also I've made peace with the fact that it's never, you're never gonna figure everything out. There is no, that place that I know is ultimately wonderful. So I'm very, very comfortable with that idea. I'm comfortable with the fact that my mind is very imaginative. I mean, I write poems, I write stories, I tell stories, and my reality is also really, really beautiful. I get to interact and engage with people in a healthier, more self-proclaiming way.
Leaving home for university was perhaps the fresh start that Kedibone had been craving for throughout her childhood. What insights did her new life in Venda bring her?
I am so grateful for the fact that I'm so curious and partially grateful that I actually did live in a space that did make me want to get out more, because I could have been comfortable. That's another part that I've learned to embrace about growing up. I left home. I went to study varsity. That was the process. Before that, prior that was just me embracing anything or everything that everybody just gives to me. So the moment I left home and I went to varsity, that's when I started meeting different people and started having conversations. Having conversations was the beginning of me learning and understanding that perhaps maybe everyone is just broken, and that's not my dilemma. And even the people that I'm angry at are also broken. But it was a very perhaps space. It was not a definite claim of who I was. I did not embrace like the absolution of those conversations that, no, me too, me too, me too. In my mind, there was still this perfect story that everybody else was living somewhere else and I was not experiencing it. I could somehow feel that I'm shifting into a different reality. I'm experiencing a different part of me, and I think I might like it. That was the space that I was in. It took me still studying, still working, many other things for me to get to a space where I was like, okay, I think I'm actually really, really happy and comfortable with my story. There's a long gap between the time it started to when it actually was realized.
On her coming-of-age journey, Kedibone fell pregnant. How has motherhood shifted her perspective on parenting, and has it helped her to reconcile with her parents?
Becoming a mother for me happened at a very important breakthrough time of my life. Like in between me discovering who I really am and realizing who I actually am, motherhood came into the picture. So I was in school, I was still studying accounting back in varsity. And then I fell pregnant. And then I had to leave that province and come back home. And my mom was like, no, you can't leave. Leave the child, go back to school, finish. I was like, no, I think I can still finish and be a mother at the same time. At that time, I still had ideas about what motherhood was. I still had this idea about this is how it's supposed to be. I wanted to bring the idea of what I had learned things to be into what things actually are. And that picture dominated my thoughts into thinking, I have to do the right thing. Me and my partner, we have to get married. And I have to work and do all of that. So fortunately, I was able to work and I was able to find all of those things. What do I call these things? I don't have a name for these things. I don't have a name for the attributes of success that we use to paint a picture of life. I don't have a name for those things, but those things where everything is done right by the book and you're subscribing to all of that. So I had the opportunity to create that and actually realize that this is not it. I remember spending my first paycheck to buy so many things for this 3-month-old baby that didn't care for those things. And I remember when she turned 1, I went out and still got more things, hoping that, I'm compensating and I'm giving you all of these things, and still there was no interest. I don't know what happened to those things. Yeah, but I learned the reality of who my child was and who I was with that experience, with just trying to actually put things in the picture that were right, but failing miserably. Failing and still feeling like I'm inadequate. I'm not doing something right. So motherhood for me is that lesson. It's still ongoing. My wildest dreams come in embracing the fact that what I feel actually matters a lot more. How I feel matters a lot more.
I think I've spoken to some of my friends about this. I'm very much jealous of her, like literally. Some of us will be known for acquiring materialistic things, like, oh, you once did that, you had this. But for her, the world would know her for her, not for what she has. So for me, and all my life, I wanted that. That's one of the things that make me love her more and be inclined to what she's doing. It inspires me. Her work is very nice. And in one of her interviews, she has stated that she just wanted to be recognized as herself, not as what she has acquired materialistically.
In a world where it's easy to imitate the next person, how does Kedibone remain connected to the uniqueness of her voice and perspective?
I'm afraid of speaking from a voice of the people that I read from, because I honestly want to speak from my own self. Like, I want to be able to tell a story from a perspective of me. My favorite writers then just take a back seat a bit. What I want my work to say, I don't think I really want my work to say much, because even if I were to write something and it had these deep meaning, wonderful words in it, it would mean nothing if it didn't touch a feeling. So I want my work to make someone feel happy, make someone feel at peace, a joy, an experience that, hey, I was in planet Earth.
Winner of the What If South Africa Poetry Competition, Kedibone Mphethi. Please put your hands together while she comes on stage.
How has winning the AVBOB Poetry Competition's grand prize for What If South Africa validated Kedibone?
I wrote that poem in English, and it's an English competition. It was an English poem. It validated that thought in me that the diverse culture actually does have a place. And a lot of times in many interviews, I've always had to explain the fact that I don't go out looking for validation. But when you do find the recognition, it's something to celebrate, right? In your human experience, reach for the humane. Even in these times we live. They said, what if we were not being buried, but planted, rooted as seeds that would branch out and blossom into trees? We have a story to tell about a winter that came, and with it, a pressure that made us diamonds. Our breakthrough, however, was always in dancing in the rain. Into the soil went the water, and from it a nation became. They said, what if South Africa, we are just getting started.
A poet has the power to heal others. Could you do the same? Follow our social platforms to connect with our poets and poems. AVBOB, we're here for you.